I'm gonna do an experience slash trip report on weed. Now, I don't know what the fuck to say, to be honest. Mainly because it's 2 in the morning and I've just been dancing for about 2 or 3 hours solid. Quite vigorously. But also because it's a hard one to really place a specific high on. Mainly because I haven't smoked it properly in like 3 months, and prior to that, not 6 months prior to that, so I'm well out of the experience with weed. I used to smoke it 1 out of 2 days, or possibly more frequently, for the few years prior to that. So I should really have a lot of experience. I mean, I do, but it's hard to remember that. It's hard to remember how much of it I was stoned for and how much of it I wasn't stoned for, to tell you the absolute damn truth. But anyway, I'll go on by. I mean, I could do the lower experience and higher experience, but with me, and I think with weed in general, there are a lot of different strains and a lot of different highs you can get. So, for example, you can smoke. There's like the body load high, the head high, and the body load and head high, which is, for me, probably the best fucking state. Now, sometimes I smoke really, or I have smoked really potent skunky, and I can understand why people say it makes you paranoid, but it also makes you really, really mentally fucking high, man. Like, it's that weird feeling of not really fucking knowing what's going down, like, just being stoned, not fully understanding shit, but kind of laughing at it. I can understand how people can get paranoia from large amounts of skunk, but to be honest, like, I don't think it makes any new paranoias or anxieties. I think it just amplifies things that are already there in your psyche. And also the fact that you're doing an illegal substance can cause some anxiety. Outside of that, I don't think weed really creates any paranoid anxiety. And I think when you've had a really fucking large amount of skunk, you're just so high that you're well past the anxiety stage. You're just fucking high as balls, man. Just feel like you're floating around the fucking ceiling. Feel like you're off to see Ganesh. You sort of feel ideas coming through. It's quite a natural high. I understand why a lot of people are pro cannabis and why they say it could be medicinal and helpful for cancer patients and people at the end of the line. And yeah, I really like the mental high cannabis that you get. The stuff that makes you really question like what the fuck's going on, and yeah, just like makes you feel your emotions and feel kind of alive. And it also makes you quite giggly at times. It can make you anxious and paranoid, but I find it mainly makes you giggly and confused with a really, really insane head high. Sometimes when you've been smoking it for days and you just exercising and doing shit day to day more and more, yeah, it sort of puts you into an automatic functioning mode where you can appreciate the mind high, but you can still function. So your brain's going mad, you're experiencing loads of wild things, but you're still a functional human being. And to me, that's an amazing experience. It's quite an interesting one to see yourself all function through this insane mind state. Like, the whole world's absolutely crazy and far-fetched to you, yet you're able to function, walk around, eat, sleep, everything you need to do, absolutely out of your mind. Like, yeah. Then there's the body high. I find you get this a lot from like the sweet but not very like strong smelling stuff. The stuff that smells like raspberries or kind of like weed elderflower, if that makes sense to you, or earthy weed, seems to give me more of the body high. And a more welcoming head high, like a sedated kind of head high. I really like this type of weed, just because like if you've had a stressful day, or you're in a shitty mood, or you just need to physically relax, you'll smoke a bit of this weed and yeah, basically just sort of sink into you. Oh, can multiply that. Sink into your sofa or recoil into your chair. It's quite nice, and it feels like you're sort of comfortably going into yourself. I find you get the munchies more on this type of high than you do with any other thing. It sort of enhances your want for food, your need for food, your enjoyment of food. I think the physical stoned is the one to make you eat more. I find as well that regardless of what type of weed I use, whenever I have weed in food, whenever you eat weed, so you make brownies or cookies or fucking cake or whatever you make with your cannabis butter, I find that always gives me a really intense body high, like not just the reclining one, so intense that I can barely move without it feeling like I'm swiveling all around the room and shit. And it sort of confuses my senses. Makes me really, really giggly and giddy, but it's a real confusing high for me. That's what I find anyway. And then there's the weed that's kind of a combination of both. I don't know how I feel about that weed. Like, I find it's really good for going out on because you've kind of got the pleasurable body feeling along with the really insane head high. It's good for kind of like group activities like tag, or if you're shooting each other with water guns, or if you're going on an adventure, maybe if you're running around a play park, or if you're doing a load of climbing or adventurous stuff, maybe if you're camping. It's like a good social and also physically active type of smoke to me. But yeah, I'm sorry I'm not so detailed with this one. There's not much I can think of to say. I mean, the problem isn't that I haven't smoked enough different weed. The problem is I smoked so much weed that there's a lot of days when I've been high and a lot of days where I can't remember whether I was high or not, so it's hard to compare it to stuff. And now that I'm not smoking it anymore, it's hard to relate to that old feeling because it's given me so many experiences. For me, I think weed is pretty much harmless, to be honest. I think for most people it's harmless. I mean, like, yeah, a lot of people can't handle psychedelics, I'll admit that. You know, most people probably shouldn't start taking meth, etc., etc., but of all the drugs, I think weed is probably just fucking fine for basically anyone. Like, a very small amount of people might go a bit mad from smoking a lot of fucking skunk, but I think you need a predisposition to that shit, to be honest. I don't think people just smoke weed and go insane. From what I've seen, most people smoke weed and just chill the fuck out. From my experience, I just chill the fuck out and enjoy myself. I don't feel the need to go off and do horrible shit. Generally, man, I think weed is a pretty damn good plant, and it's one that's probably been used for relaxation and sedation for years. I think as well it's one of the most natural highs. I feel as though human beings probably evolved with weed, and it might even be maybe part of our anatomy to smoke it. I don't know that for sure. It's just a strange thing I think of in my head. Anyway, sorry I couldn't be more informative. It's just yeah, just a big memory block, I guess, and with so much experience, it's hard to know what was weed and what wasn't. So, yeah, all I can say is I enjoyed it, I guess, and for the most, I think it's quite an enjoyable experience. I think Amsterdam was a nice place to have it, just because there wasn't the same sort of social worries and stigma there. It was quite a normal thing. All the tourists go and get high. A lot of them go to the wax museums, the sex museums, see the canals, see the beautiful flower displays. It's a very nice place, is Amsterdam in general. It's just guilt-free. It's not shady and disgusting like people think it is. I mean, some of it outside the tourist area might be. From what I've seen, it's not like that. It's not like a crazy lad's holiday where it's all just horrible, like booze and sex and fucking underworld or some shit. It's quite respectfully managed, I would say. Not everyone agrees with it, which is understandable, but it's quite respectfully managed. But yeah, honestly, I think weed's pretty much harmless. I mean, if you smoke too much, you'll maybe have a less productive day, or maybe get a little bit panicky if you smoke shit tons of skunk, but just be careful how much you smoke, moderate it. to me it's not that big an issue. Anyways, that was my talk on weed. As I said, sorry I couldn't be as informative as normal, but yeah, I really just don't have the capacity to go on about it as such. But yeah, thank you for listening and hope you enjoyed it.